California is getting a harsh economic lesson after implementing $20 minimum wage. Wow, who would have thought that raising minimum wage to $20 would actually have people losing their jobs and stuff? Who would have thought that? Of course, we knew this was going to happen. Everyone said this was going to happen. I said this was going to happen. And now California is suffering the price with jobs closing, people not having a job and things like that, and companies fleeing California. It's crazy. So we're going to play the clip and hear what Fox Business has to say about it. But before we get started, go ahead and hit that like button, share this out so we can get this information out there. Subscribe if you're not already a subscriber, and hit that alarm bell so you know when I'm putting out new stuff. Also, check out my link tree in the description. It has a link to my Patreon. That's where I talk about things that I can't talk about here. There's also a link to my Instagram and my X account, so follow me there as well. All right, let's get right to the clip. Here we go.
Welcome back. California getting yet another hard lesson in economics. The state implemented a $20 minimum wage for fast food workers in April. That was April of 2024. A little over 1 year later, it's estimated that the state has hemorrhaged, get this, 18,000 jobs. The complete opposite of the employment trends across the rest of the country. And
again, we knew this was going to happen. If you use rationality, if you use logic, if you look at basic economics, you knew this was going to happen. You can't demand this high of a pay. Think about it. You got a small business. You barely making ends meet in your restaurant. You know, most restaurants already fail. 50% of restaurants that start fail. So you already have that against you. But then you want to have a $20 minimum wage. So you got a busser, someone bussing tables making $20 an hour. Like, that makes absolutely no sense to me. I don't understand. I mean, and we tried to warn California. We tried to warn Gavin Newsom, but this is what they wanted. So now they have to live with it.
Said this before COVID, when they were advocating for $15 minimum wage, and then during COVID, when wages did go up because we saw such massive inflation, that if the price of your Big Mac meal, and that's what an average person can buy for lunch, is $15, but they're making $15 an hour, then you sort of defeat the purpose of the higher wage. California took it to the next level, to the point where businesses then couldn't be competitive and they had to lay people off. Lou.
Yeah, I mean, you said it in your intro, a hard lesson in economics. We knew what was going to happen, and yet they willfully went forward. This is a math problem. It's a math equation that can be easily solved before you put into place a really bad policy. Beyond having to lay people off, businesses leave and flee states that require higher minimum wages. We need to remember, it's a minimum wage. It's not supposed to be a living wage, and I think those are the distinctions. We need to provide a pathway, training, opportunities to get people from those jobs into the next level where it is higher wages, not force the bottom up and force business.
Yeah, this is supposed to be entry-level work, you know, or subsidizing type of work, like it's a second job type of thing. You're not made to live off of working at McDonald's drive-through. That's not what that really was for. So he's absolutely right on that. This is not a living wage. It's supposed to be a minimum wage. He's right.
Businesses to bear the brunt of it because they can't.
Yeah, and yesterday we talked about InNOut Burger not wanting to stay in California or its headquarters.
And, you know, you've seen so much business move to the south, to Texas. You've seen Florida take off, North Carolina, South Carolina, Georgia. All of these states have lower costs of labor, and they're very popular with employers, and there's a good reason for it. I just see this trend continuing and not going away.
Well, the minimum wage crowd has this weird habit of always wanting to use, like, the stick of the minimum wage to bring people's pay up. And they always seem to be the least cognizant people that there are other ways to get that work done if you back a business into a corner. It's like we talk about AI every day. We talk about technology every day. They refuse to accept that if you price out businesses from their workers, businesses will hire technology. That's what happens. Like some of these, there may be some restaurant closures in California, but actually what they're doing is we see this everywhere. It's kiosks. So like what you've done with you can raise a minimum wage and put people out of work, or you can support pro-growth policies and give businesses an incentive that's sustainable to hire new workers and train them up. But the left loves coercion more than they love the outcome they're seeking, which is a better life for workers.
And let me tell you something, now that I have an opportunity. I get very annoyed at the kiosks because sometimes they don't work and you still need a human to fix them, but there's only one human and there's 50 kiosks or 50 self-checkouts. You still need a human being there. And this brings us back to the issue we were talking about AI with Charles Payne, what it can do for your business, how much more efficient it can make you, how it can get rid of jobs as well and save you money. But at the same time, you just cannot replace humans, even in the most simple ways.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And imagine the worker who goes to her boss and says, pay me more or I'm going to pass a law, instead of saying, I want to work harder, I want to learn more, I want to elevate my contributions to this company, and then pay me more as a result. The truth is, Lou, that the average wage in America is about $32 an hour. All the folks who are earning money average that out. It's about $32 an hour. Why? Because they started off, as we all do, growing up with a fast food job for a couple months. They learn those skills and they move on up.
I'm not sure if Kamala actually did or didn't.
Well, President Trump certainly worked
He
for a
served
few
it up.
hours.
Yeah.
And that'd be the smallest of her
That's pretty
lives was the
funny.
McDonald's one.
Right.
You know.
But I think, the kiosk not working is a pain. I agree with you. But actually, the bigger problem for Democrats who push this is the kiosks do work.
Yeah.
They work really well. And it's not just kiosks.
Correct.
It's in an Amazon warehouse. It's robots that can
a million
move things.
robots now.
Like, it is, there are... People like to complain that the technologists are putting humans out of work, but there's nobody who's better at putting humans out of work
Than humans.
than the humans in government. You got it. That's exactly
That's
it.
right.
Well, look, these kiosks have been around for years. I mean, it was almost 10 years ago I was in Seoul, South Korea, and every fast food restaurant had kiosks. They were replacing the workers a decade ago. So this is a willful decision in the United States to keep employing people over technology. It's not technology's fault. If you lose your job, it's not to AI. It's because you don't know how to use AI. It's our role to teach people how to use the new tools of technology.
But it's also the government's job to stay out of it. The government shouldn't be forcing us to make that decision. When I walk into a McDonald's or a BJ's or a Walmart, I think about my mom who raised me and my sister when she was a cashier along with my dad. She wouldn't have had that job. She wouldn't have been able to support us as a family. And so that's a decision folks have to make. If the free market's going to make that decision of its own volition, so be it. But Zohran Mamdani needs to keep his grimy paws off of that decision for businesses to make independently.
I'll second that. And I'll also talk about minimum wage generally, where I started the conversation, which is that under Joe Biden, when inflation spiked up to over 9%, real wages actually went down, even though minimum wage came up and most people were seemingly on the top line of their paycheck making more. The cost of living had gotten so expensive that they actually were losing money on the transaction. If I had my choice, I would have just left everything the way it was.
We're giving Democrats a lot of grief for this, but the latest guy to sponsor an increase in the federal minimum wage was a Republican, Josh Hawley, actually. So there's a strain.
Dagan's favorite.
I know I'm sort of channeling a little Dagan here, but there's sort of this, there's a strain of economic thinking that runs through both parties that wants to get government more involved in this decision making. And you're going to, it doesn't matter if a Republican or a Democrat introduces it, you're going to get the same result. It's a nonpartisan economic issue. It comes down to money and the decisions that businesses have to make.
That's right.
Wow. The California, the chickens are coming home to roost. 18,000 people. 18,000 people lost their jobs.
Welcome back, Kelly.
It's crazy. But this is what they voted for. They voted for this. They wanted to raise minimum wage, and now people are suffering. That's why they're hemorrhaging people. People are leaving California that can afford to leave California. I don't know why anyone in their right mind, other than the weather. That's the only thing about California that's good is the weather. Everything else is terrible. I don't know why anyone would want to live in California just because of one reason, just because of the weather. I don't get it. But y'all let me know what y'all think about this. Leave y'all comments down below. Like, share, and subscribe. And check out jjthepsychotherapist.com for the latest in news. Until next time. Peace.